Do you want some too, buddy? He sees you. He sees you.
You know what? I had assumed that by this point everyone watching would have started talking about their favorite underrated horror movies again. I guess I'm not as inspirational and influential as I thought. Oh well, can't win them all. Additionally, you can't talk about every single horror movie that needs more attention, but I sure will try. We're back with the top 5 scariest horror movies nobody talks about, part 8. Let's get it. Coming in at number 5, Feast. I'm gonna rattle off some names for you, and you're gonna assess whether or not that would make a horror movie required viewing. Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Chris Moore, Wes Craven. Not exactly a bunch of producers you would expect to work on the same horror project, but here we are. Back in 2005, this strange little mixture of horror and comedy premiered at the Chicago International Film Festival, and the rest is history. Bloody, nasty, weirdly reproductive history. All you need to make a fun, memorable horror movie is a cool idea and the commitment to making it happen. Feast is just such a movie. Some folks complain that it's too simplistic, too straightforward, but I say that those elements actually work in Feast's favor. It's a flick without any properly named characters who have to fight off a terrifying monster while locked inside of a dive bar in the middle of nowhere. What's not to like about that? A simple premise with quality execution and you're having a blast. First-time director John Gulager takes this easy-to-follow plot and just has fun with it. The characters that take themselves too seriously end up being cautionary tales, and the ones who are figuring out everything on the fly make it work. Plenty of funny moments woven throughout, too. Feast is a pretty self-aware movie, playing with horror tropes left, right, and center. You've got your gruff and rock-steady hero character, ready to take on any threat that might barrel through that door. Too bad he's a little too overconfident and ends up being the first one dead. No spoilers either, they show that bit in the trailer. Then you've got all sorts of classic stock horror movie stereotypes, all with names like Tuffy, Edgy Cat, Honey Pie, and Harley Mom. They play their expected roles and then add something unexpected to the mix. Plus, I haven't even really talked about the monster yet. While it not be the most unique creature when looking at its design, there's a lot of weird and wild stuff it manages to do as the plot progresses. What first appears to be a singular monster soon becomes an entire family of beasts hell-bent on reproducing with anything and everything. These creatures are birthed real quick too, meaning they can multiply extremely fast. If you're okay with an over-the-top flick that doesn't take itself too seriously, Feast is a fun movie with plenty to offer. Plus, it was made as part of Project Greenlight, and any effort to bring new voices into filmmaking gets the thumbs up from me. Coming in at number 4, One Cut of the Dead. Now for something completely different, we've got a zombie outbreak tied in with a family drama, all encompassed in a one-shot gimmick. That's really all you need to know about this movie before seeing it, because if I told you too much more, it would ruin all the fun. The first watch is so important to the unadulterated joy movie lovers will feel on watching One Cut of the Dead. It takes you to so many unexpected places and ensures that all of these strange choices made early on mean something. I know a lot of folks were really excited when this flick first got its Western release, but I haven't heard nearly enough gushing over it since. It might not be the scariest thing ever created, although the first half does manage a very distinctly creepy tone, but there's enough heart and hard work infused throughout to make it a very worthwhile watch. So meta with so many layers. It kicks off with a film crew shooting a zombie movie out in the middle of nowhere. During their time at an abandoned water filtration plant, it becomes apparent that a real zombie apocalypse has started. Instead of dropping their cameras and getting the hell out of there, the director insists that they stay and capture it all with gruesome results. A movie doesn't get made without its cast and crew, however, and there's a surprising amount of depth to each of the folks involved. Amidst the blood, guts, and shambling undead, there's a bevy of human stories to back up all the craziness happening in the forefront. And like I mentioned at the beginning, it's all done up in one take. Well, sort of. No cuts, no resets, no nothing. It's technically impressive and at times is truly crazy to behold, so just go and watch it, alright? And don't look up anything else if you haven't seen it already. Trust me. Number 3, House of the Devil. If really bad pizza scares you, then this movie should be at the top of your list. It's not really important to the plot or anything, but it's worth mentioning just how absolutely horrible the Italian cheesy dough circles look here. If by some miracle you can look past this cardinal sin against quality za, you'll find yourself a really clever modern horror that pays homage to the classics of bygone eras. It might not be immediately apparent, but The House of the Dead is a period piece with a stunning amount of attention to detail. The plot takes place in the 1980s, like a lot of classic slashers and satanic panic style movies. To keep it looking and feeling just like one of those old school movies, it was shot on 16mm film and has an opening similar to Texas Chainsaw, and features plenty of 80s fashion, music, and technology. Hell, they even use way more zooms than their contemporary directors might usually use to really capture that cheap old school feeling. The story is pretty classic 80s too. A young girl decides to babysit for an eccentric family to make a little extra money for rent and ends up way over her head. She's told that all she has to do is hang out in the house while the family's elderly mother sleeps upstairs, which wasn't really part of the deal. She thought she was looking after a kid. But as she explores the house, all sorts of evidence that the family isn't who they say they are crops up and tensions rise. You can probably see where this is going, right? If you're a lover of the 70s and 80s and find low-budget horror fascinating, The House of the Devil is a lovely adventure in style and Satanism. Coming in at number 2, In the Mouth of Madness. And here's a director that the folks behind The House of the Devil would have been trying to emulate. John Carpenter has put together a storied and illustrious career. He essentially catapulted the slasher as we know it today into the limelight and followed up with classic after classic. Not everything hit upon release, but over the years fans have enjoyed pretty much all he's had to offer. One movie that came closer to the end of his long run of classics was In the Mouth of Madness. The third and final entry into his Apocalypse trilogy, preceded by The Thing and The Prince of Darkness, this is Carpenter at his most Lovecraftian. It's the tale of a private investigator sent to find a missing horror author ahead of his latest book's release. When I said Lovecraftian before, I really meant it. While the creatures and themes from his previous work definitely had cosmic horror influence, In the Mouth of Madness follows Lovecraft's story structure to a T. A skeptic begins investigating something that seems absurd, and soon becomes across some evidence that opens his eyes to a horrible truth. Following up on this evidence, he witnesses firsthand unspeakable horrors, all while attempting to rationalize what's going on. Things only get weirder as a grand plot is revealed, and the skeptic eventually loses his mind. Then he can only helplessly watch on as unspeakable evil wreaks havoc upon the waking world. It might seem like I just spoiled the movie, but that could be the plot of any given Lovecraftian tale. But when you merge that story structure with John Carpenter's deft direction and expert use of visuals, you have an eternally rewatchable descent into madness. We all love Halloween and The Thing, but this one definitely deserves to be held in higher regard than it currently is. And finally, at number 1, we've got Tokyo Gore Police. Splatter films. Forever considered lowbrow, never to be appreciated by the masses. But fans of this genre know about all the hard work and dedication required to produce something so bloody and bombastic. And for something especially bloody and bombastic, you've got to watch Tokyo Gore Police. The title says it all. In an alternate future, horrible mutants have taken over Japan. Known as engineers, they sprout gnarly weapons from their bodies whenever they're injured. Cut off a leg, it'll be replaced by a sword. An arm can become a chainsaw or an assault rifle. The more damage they take, the more dangerous they become. To deal with this threat, a privatized quasi-military branch of the police has been created to violently deal with these monsters. The story is mostly concerned with a young woman who is helping the police deal with engineers in order to exact revenge on the man who killed her father. But the generally dark tale of revenge is really just a vehicle to bring about more crazy fights. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. This is a movie that knows exactly what it's doing and delivers wholeheartedly on its title. Hopefully I've brought about 5 flicks that you can add to your watch list. And if you've already seen some, well, watch them again. Then you can talk about them with the other folks watching these videos. So what'd you think of the list? Any of these pique your interest? What are some movies I should include on the next list? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more artisanal ones from the top 5 horror movie monsters nobody talks about, part 4. Stephanie Faye A. Abanader says, "This man is just straight up preparing for the end of the world at this point." Maybe I am. At least I'm having some fun with it. XJST Alex says, "Fur that doesn't reflect light kind of sounds more like, alright guys, this is the money we can afford to spend on CGI." Have you seen these aliens in actions? Because the effect works. It's pretty cool. Harry H says, "All these movies sucked." Oh, damn, Harry. I hope you find something to bring joy into your life soon. It must be tough living like that. And Sarah, the Alan Walker fan, says, "I'm 14, I love horror movies. I even watched an R-rated movie and it was not even scary." See, now that is the right attitude. Keep on loving horror movies. And that's all the time we have for today. I'm going to attempt to fly an airplane near a drone convention. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I'm gonna rattle off some names for you, and you're gonna assess whether or not that would make a good horror movie. Nope. What's happening to me? Find low-budget horror fascinating. The House of the Devil is a fascinating... Oh, I said fascinating twice. The House of the Devil... Nope, I'm gonna redo that. It's the tale of a private It's a tale of a private... Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Oh my gosh.